Well, good evening, everyone. We were just holding up a couple of minutes and hope that Councilor Leary would be joining us, but I do know he comes from Peabody, and if he's going through the same traffic I went through, he's probably going to be a little bit late. But we know that there's a presentation, and we know that there'll be questions and folks from the audience that would like to speak. So with that, and I'm sure he'll be, Mr. Councilor Leary will be with us momentarily. Why don't we, Mr. Clerk, why don't we call the roll, and we'll begin.
Chairman Elliott.
Here.
Council Leary. Council Milanazzo.
Here.
Two present.
Two present. We also recognize Councilor Rita Mercer that has joined us as well. And City Manager Kevin Murphy and his finance team. He'll introduce them. But with that, Mr. Manager, before us tonight, we have 3 items on the Finance Subcommittee agenda, with the first one being proposed garage rate increases. And with that, if there's no objection from Council Milanazzo or members of the public, will go through the presentation, then we'll go through question and answers or statements, if that works. Okay, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with me tonight is Rodney Conley and Connor Baldwin from my finance team, and Nick Navin, who is our parking clerk. First of all, as you know, parking in the City of Lowell is an enterprise fund, and it's designed to be supported by the users, and therefore we avoid dipping into tax dollars to pay for the services. You'll see in the presentation, the rates last increased in 2003, but now we're building the 975-space Hamilton Canal garage, and quite honestly, we need to build 2 more garages beyond that. And beyond just building the garages, we have to make repairs to our existing garages. Just 2 years ago, we spent $7 million to repair the Market Street and the Lower Locks garage. So there's a definite need for increased revenue to support parking needs in the City of Lowell. So with that said, what I'd like to first of all is turn it over to Connor Baldwin. If you could just tell us about the state of the fund and why we need parking rate increases, and then if you can turn it over to Nick Navin for a brief presentation on the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. So as the manager indicated, the parking enterprise is an enterprise fund and is self-supporting by the user fees of folks who use the garage, use the on-street parking, and other revenues of the fund. Currently, in fiscal 17, the fund had a fund balance of about $4.5 to $5 million. However, in our projections over the 5-year forecast of the parking enterprise, we do anticipate that fund balance to dwindle. The budgeted FY18 operations in the parking enterprise are a deficit of $790, about $800,000. So we anticipate over the next few years to draw upon the fund balance, which will eventually, by approximately 2020, 2021, start to flip the fund balance into a negative. And when that happens, the tax base needs to subsidize the enterprise fund. So if it is not self-supporting, then by rules of the Department of Revenue, it has to be supported by the tax levy. The amount that we get to in about 2021 is before any potential debt service related to financing the first of the several garages that are going to be needed in the city. So we anticipate that some additional revenue will be needed both to support the current operations, but also to support the future debt service for somewhere in the $30 to $35 million range for a new garage in the Hamilton Canal District. So that's a brief state of the Parking Enterprise Fund and a brief overview of the forecast. I'll turn it over to Nick Navin, who will give a presentation about the proposed change to the rates.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. So, as has been stated, parking is an enterprise that is fully funded on user fees, and we're operating at a deficit right now, and we have some immediate needs of capital growth with a new parking garage, and we also need to address, repairs at our existing facilities. So, really, the bottom line was clear, and it was a matter of seeing what we needed to do to close that projected delta. So, I was looking to take a holistic approach as regards to the parking system and incorporate a rate increase that touches upon all aspects and divisions within the parking department. So, the objective of this rate increase is chiefly to support the new Hamilton Canal District garage and repairs to our existing facilities. This next slide just reminds us of what our current Lowell garage rates are. Currently, we're having a daily maximum rate of $8 per day, and it's a rate that develops incrementally hour over hour. And to accommodate frequent parkers, we have a monthly parking rate that is currently $64, which is the market rate. However, there are several discounts that we offer that are applied to that market rate, which is illustrated below. And we're offering group billing discounts and discounts to the residents of the Central Business District as well as other populations. This next slide is a compelling slide which illustrates the Lowell rates in comparison with other municipalities within the Commonwealth. And this comparison was important for two reasons. One is the last time we raised rates in 2003 was informed by a parking study that compared the regional market rate along with some of our initiatives of growth. And specifically with many of these communities, Worcester, Springfield, Cambridge, Malden, there's a circumstance where they have several municipally owned parking facilities and on-street operations. So you see parallels not only with the region, but also the parking systems are comparable to Lowell. And as it was in the past, it is today where we're finding in virtually every rate band, we're having our neighbors, which is charging significantly more than we are now. Moving on, so, I understood that we had not raised rates in quite a while, and as I was doing research, it became clear that there was, quite a lot of ground to cover and make up. So the main priority was to review our business model and, implement a scenario where parking pricing is following a demand relationship where if you're using parking more, then you're paying more than someone who's using parking less. And if you're using parking during peak demand, then the rate, will reflect that. And conversely, during the off hours, there's a lower rate. I also made the best effort, like we have some immediate needs that we need to address, but we also made the best effort to spread the price increase over 4 years so that, we would make our best effort to step into the larger rates. This next slide is the beginning of the new proposed garage rates. And these represent the hourly rates, the daily rates, sometimes referred to as the transient rates. And what we're doing here is we're acknowledging that weekday parking is the time when is in greatest demand. And as such, the rates have increased accordingly. Also look to compress the rate bands so that the daily rate matures to the maximum a little bit more quickly, so that it's in line with the regional circumstance. On the other side of that coin, it's clear that we have plenty of available parking within our facilities on weekday evenings and during the weekends. And I think that that's one time where, Lowell downtown Lowell specifically really has a lot to offer, and events and nightlife. So the objective was to try and create incentive to utilize the facilities by discounting the rate actually to what it is currently. And, through that balance, we were able to achieve a positive change in the daily rates. So monthly parking is our greatest revenue source when we're looking at off-street parking. So our off-street parking, which is the garages, is generating somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.3 million annually, and about 75% of that is monthly parking revenue. So this is certainly the largest segment. And, one thing that we were doing is we had only one monthly parking product available that is a 24/7 access group. Following the same philosophy as the daily rates, it was the objective to create a program or a series of offerings where if you're primarily utilizing the parking during off-peak hours, we could create a product that would be indicative of that through the cost per month. So, quite simply, if you're looking to park during the busiest times, you're going to pay more than the monthly parker who's looking to park at the times that are not as busy. So the way that we developed that concept was to maintain a monthly parking offering that has 24/7 access, but also introduce a product that is conducive to the typical commuter who's visiting downtown Lowell during the business days, Monday through Friday, and then also an overnight parking special, which is a product that would fit most residents within the downtown. And through that, we were able to achieve less of a jarring effect with the rate increase should someone choose to avail themselves of these product offerings. So the monthly parking product in and of itself represents a discount when you consider someone who's parking regularly. Comparing to the daily rate, if someone were to park regularly on the daily rate, a monthly parking pass at the market rate represents almost a 50% discount. On top of that, the City of Lowell offers additional discounts for different scenarios, group billing being one of them, where we can pass on a discount that's reflective of our reduced administrative effort. And then there's also a discount that's available to downtown residents, and we have an even deeper discount available to senior or disabled downtown residents and students at Lowell High School. Folding in discount over discount creates a challenge from an operating perspective, and has an effect on the market rate that moves the needle in a direction that requires us to recover additional revenue. So, but we maintained the discount offerings, but we tried to pare them down a little bit so that we could have a better result or effect on the revenue of the monthly parking. But as it stands now, we're still offering a discount, was still proposed to offer discounts that are fairly similar to what has been offered in the past. So as I said earlier, we're looking at parking from the parking system from a holistic point of view. And, it's not just the parking garages and their rates that are a revenue source and an area of our focus. So we carried forward this comparative analysis to view citations and violation fees from Lowell into other Massachusetts municipalities, and we saw much in the same, that our parking fines were much lower than the average. So, that's an opportunity to capture revenue as well and bolster that revenue source. Also, it's important to consider that if the parking fines don't increase proportionally to the parking rates, like let's say if you're raising your garages to $13, $14 a day and your parking ticket meter fine stays at $15 a day, and like no one's going to park in the garage, you need to create some incentive to put them in their appropriate location. So, as is every fee and fine that's recommended here, we're moving them to the average of what's around us within the Commonwealth. Another program of the parking department that takes a considerable amount of the administrative bandwidth of the department is our neighborhood parking program, specifically our residential parking program. And that's not something that's unique to Lowell. In fact, it's quite common throughout the Commonwealth. And the basic premise is that, you're creating a system that's prioritizing the available curbside space on the street in the neighborhood to those residents who have dutifully registered their vehicle in accordance with the local and state laws. So one unique exception to Lowell is that, there's no fee associated with any of the programs that we administer in that arena. And there is a cost in material and certainly an administrative cost associated with performing those duties and providing that service. So as such, we thought it would be appropriate to, have a fee associated with that. Also, looking at the residential parking program, we saw it as an opportunity to make it more flexible and accessible to the various needs, parking needs within the neighborhoods. Right now, we're having a limited amount of credentials that are being used outside of the spirit of its intent, and this just looks to other communities and adopts other successful programs that would fit in well with the needs of the currently established resident parking programs, and introduces a fee that is, comparable or under what is being charged there. And some other measures to consider. This rate proposal assumes that the on-street meter rates will increase 25 cents from $1 an hour to $1.25. The downtown, so the downtown is a mixed-use district that has residential and commercial uses, and our parking resources are developed by a shared parking methodology that, we need to turn over the spaces in order to make it work for everyone. So a vehicle storage surcharge would be helpful to make spaces available and increase our revenue. And then also the green and white reserved dwelling parking space signs to increase as well. So if we were to consider all these measures, we'd be able to meet the current capital needs in front of us. And then the final slide just shows the math, so.
Okay, all right. So before we go to question and answers, why don't we, if there's no objection, why don't we go right to the members of the public that have joined us here this evening, if folks would like to come up. At the clerk's request, if you could just please, there is a sign-in sheet right on the podium. So before you leave, we know who you are, but.
Hello, Kathleen Marson. I live at 200 Market Street for 21 years now. Most of you know me because I was the neighborhood president, downtown neighborhood president for 10 years. And I'd like to start by saying, for 10 years, every year when the city manager comes to visit us, we say, would you please raise our parking rates 1% this year? And then 1% next year. And we'd be to 10% by now. This city manager, 3 months ago, said, we are not raising your parking rates. I asked you 3 times, the third time you were a little annoyed. We understand. We absolutely all understand. But we also are held hostage by the planning department's mandate for us to have 1 parking space per unit in a garage to develop the buildings. Maybe something to think about going forward. And here we are, so my building has to pay for 94 spaces a month, so that comes to $54,000 a year. So next year, our fee will be $83,000. So we have to come up with another $30,000 between, for next year. That's $300 to me, that's a lot of money. And when you consider this is the poorest neighborhood in the entire city, 59% of our people make $23,000 a year, I think is the median income. Where are these people going to come up with $300 a year? I just don't know. So I personally totally understand, yes, they have to go up. I think it was unfair not to take our money when we were offering it a little at a time, to then hit us with this large jump and I will mention, there's about 1,500 people, almost everybody that's here that I see actually is a unit owner, therefore they pay a tax bill, a property tax bill, residential tax bill. I don't get recycling, I don't get trash removal. Most of us don't have any kids that go to school, but we don't write the check and go, I'm not paying for that stuff. But no one in Belvedere is paying for a garage. So it just seems like there's a tiny little class or chunk of people, particularly downtown, who are taxpayers, who are paying their property taxes, who are now going to get this additional tax increase that no one else in the city is going to get. So those are just, my thoughts on things. Thank you very much.
Kathleen?
Hi, my name is Jeff Edmondson, and I've been living in downtown Lowell since '99. My wife been living here longer. And
Can we just get your address too, please?
200 Market Street. So I live in one of the condos downtown. And again, this is a huge impact. Just looking at the numbers quickly, because I just found out about this yesterday, we have 3 vehicles. My wife works in Burlington, I work up in Exeter, and I have a motorcycle to help reduce the cost for commuting. We have to pay for 3 spots. So for the 3 vehicles right now, we're running $144 a month. Come January, that'll go up to $348. And when you look at it, that's a big increase. By the time we get to 2021, we're going to be paying over $4,000 a year for the 2 of us for parking. And that's up from under $1,800 we're paying now. That's going out and spending money in downtown 1 time a week at least. I mean, this is a significant increase in our living budget that we won't be spending in our neighborhood that we do now. And I think that's another thing that needs to be looked at is, yes, it's coming out of the people that live downtown, but it's money that you're taking out of the community and putting into a parking facility that doesn't really help anybody other than it being a monument structure in the community. So, I mean, I understand that there's increases, but this, again, a significant increase, very fast, no, provisions for people that currently live there, grandfather a lower rate increase every year that'll eventually catch up to everybody else, but to have this hit and come up with this amount of money so much so fast is a significant amount, and it makes us consider possibly moving out of the downtown area because it's just not disposable income that we have sitting around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Georgie May. I'm the president of the Canal Place Condo Association. That's unofficially called Canal Place 1. I did an analysis. I have a question for someone on the committee. Can you tell me how you came up with the 69% increase in the residential increase on the garage parking for 2018?
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Manager or Mr. Navin, Mr. CFO? Question was, how did you arrive at a 69% increase on a residential
So,
fee?
That's the residential fee, $48 to $80 that you're asking for.
sure. So what was considered was the following, and that was the regional market averages. So comparing the monthly garage parking products available in Worcester and Springfield and Cambridge and Malden and so on and so forth. The other element was there was a bottom line that we needed to hit, and that is the costs of the new garage and our deferred maintenance is pretty much known. So those were the two governing figures, and the attempt was to manipulate the rates so that we could generate that revenue, but do so in a way that's just making the bottom line.
So you're increasing our residential payment about $32 a month. If you do a compound interest from 2003, or a compound average from 2003, that increase on the cost of living over that time would have been $34 a month. I totally understand why you have to raise the prices. We've had it good for several years. But if you had raised them by the cost of living every year, at this point, we would have been at that $34 increase.
Yes, that's correct.
And we're just finding that it's going to be extremely painful for our people because we have to take that money and find it in our budget. And that's going to mean not necessarily a special assessment, but certainly our condo fees are going to go up. You also went to a 15% increase in 2019, and a 15% increase in 2020, and an 11% increase in 2021. I would request that that be tied to the cost of living plus a few percent. It may take you longer to get where you need to be, but it's going to be a lot less painful for the downtown residents. I'm especially concerned about the people who are 62 and over who have fixed income. This is going to be disastrous for their budgets. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Did you get her name?
Good evening, Martha Howe, 144 Fairmount Street. I have been in business for 27 years in downtown Lowell, the first 20 years with my late father, great years. I now have 2 employees. I have a niece working for me and my secretary, so there's 3 of us. And I've brought some colleagues here. We are the last of the Mohicans. Many of our colleagues have moved out of the downtown. We've stayed here in spite of the adversity, in spite of the traffic, in spite of people begging us for money. Whenever a client comes into my office, the first thing they say is, they don't say, wow, the city looks great. They say the traffic and the parking is horrible. So we have no incentives to stay down here. I stay down here because of history and because I really love the city. I'm currently paying $1,800 a year for 3 employees. If these rates go through in 4 years, I will be paying $4,000. And I won't be paying $4,000 because I will have moved to Chelmsford and I'll be putting the $4,000 in my pocket. I have read this report, and there's one line in the report that states, demand for parking has grown along with residences and businesses in the downtown, but our rates have not. So it's true, the rates have not changed, but businesses have not grown. The city has brought in so many residents, and most of those residents leave during the day. That leaves us, the small business owners. This report, as far as I know, doesn't take into consideration the sweetheart deals that UMass Lowell, Middlesex, Lowell High School, and other boot mills. It doesn't take into consideration those deals. A Lowell High student pays $17 a month, and we're going to be paying for a young secretary $109 for the same car. So the fact that this is comparing other cities, I wonder if those other cities have given such great deals to public corporations who I'm supporting with my taxes. So I'm subsidizing all of these public employees, and I'm on all of the parking rates, and I'm paying through taxes to subsidize them. So if these rates go through, I will be moving my office out of Lowell. So I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Howe. We appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Gail Frace. I live at 29 Tolman Avenue. I saw several of you last night at the Pawtuckaville Citizens candidate night, and several of the candidates spoke about, regarding the tax rate, balancing business and residential. So one of the questions that I would raise tonight is whether or not it is appropriate for for parking to be an enterprise fund. Parking downtown serves other purposes, some of which were just mentioned. I have to wonder if, I think the proposal is to have a 50% discount for Lowell students rather than the current 73. If that parking increases, last week it took 3 days. Last week it took me 45 minutes to get to a bridge. I live off of Mammoth Road, a half mile from the bridge. Does this mean that more parents are going to be dropping kids off and thus further increasing congestion downtown? I worked downtown in 2003, and I know several of you were on the council at the time, and one of the things that I remember was the school department discovered they had a large deficit because their parking increased. So I would encourage you to look at what other unintended consequences a parking increase could have. There's one woman in our office for whom Perkins Lofts being purchased by the university was the best thing that happened to her. She bought a house in Nashua. Her housing costs went down $500 a month. She can't walk to work anymore, but that's a big chunk of change. People who pay rents downtown pay a lot, and my employer doesn't cover my parking, so and I work a flexible schedule due to, I usually come in later than the prescribed things there because it takes me so long to get downtown that I come in usually for 9:30. And I don't get out of the garage until after 7. So do you want me to come in earlier and add to congestion? I know that there are residents downtown who also work later schedules. There are a lot of people who work for restaurants downtown. Wait staff are not generally high-paying wages, and they certainly stay in the garages later than 7 o'clock. One thing that I hear from people is that they don't come downtown because, if they live in neighborhoods, because downtown businesses are closed by then. Are employees going to want to leave earlier so that they can get a cheaper parking rate? Regarding the garages themselves, one thing that we hear is that there's a need for another garage, and one woman already spoke about having a certain number of prescribed parking spaces required in the garage. When developers come before the city council and ask for waivers for their parking requirements, they are often granted, in part because having a viable downtown is good for the city. So if having a viable downtown is good for the city, why is it that the downtown residents and the downtown parkers have to subsidize what's good for the whole city? Why isn't that covered by the whole city? The other question that I have in looking at the parking schedule, most other places where I've been, where there have been parking garages and on-street parking, the fees are scheduled in a manner that encourages people to park in the garage rather than doing what I call vulture behavior, where they circle the block, adding to congestion, adding to traffic, to park in cheaper on-street parking spaces. But in looking at the schedule, it looks like the hourly rate for on-street parking is less than the hourly rate in the garage. When I look at some place such as Burlington, Vermont, where it's the other way around, there's more on-street parking, and if you want to run in and pick up an order, run in and pick up a card, you park on the street, you might pay more. If you're going to have your hair done or go out to dinner, you park in the parking garage, where interestingly the first 2 hours of parking is free. That they're encouraging people to, come park and not be part of the congestion, and I'll sign my name and let somebody else speak.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure if you had some questions that you need answered, or they were more just general statements that, that we can address. You have 5 pages you left in the office? Okay. Okay. I think your point well made.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Gregory Curtis,
attorney. I've been downtown for 34 years, as Martha Howe has been downtown for many years. Our office has been downtown for over 100 years. I'm a lifelong Lowell resident. I plan on staying downtown. I love this city. It's been difficult. I lived through the last 4 years of watching that Roy garage be renovated. They did a great job on it, but it's been very difficult over the course of time. But I really think it's adequate to ask where the money can come from. Revenue can be raised, I don't know what they write for parking tickets and just meter violations in the course of a week. It's got to be hundreds, maybe thousands. If that's increased by $10, as most cities have, that would bring in quite a bit of money. Rather than increasing parking rates, we're small business owners. We have 4 employees, 5 employees. We're not on the same level as some of the people that are going to move into, say, Hamilton Canal or UMass Lowell, and they enjoy a lower rate. We basically pay the basic rate. Can we band together maybe through maybe the Bar Association, different things, and get a small discount? I don't think that's going to make a huge difference. I think enforcement, maybe raising rates a little bit as to the meters, keeping people circulating. The meter maids seem to do a great job at putting tickets out there, and if that ticket goes up by $10 per car per day, that's a huge increase. I don't know what type of revenue is going to come in eventually from the Hamilton Canal. Hopefully we have that Hamilton Canal filled up and we have a parking garage that's filled, but I know how difficult it is. Many mornings, the sign out in front of the Leo Roy garage is pass card holders only. And, you know, people are in there, there's cars that are in there that have been sitting there for months. They may be residents that just get a great rate. You know, you're not going to put your car in a storage facility for $75 or $60. So there's a little bit of leeway there, but I think raising rates on violations can really offset, hopefully, a lot of what they're trying to do and not just hit downtown businesses. I mean, I have people that come to my office. Where are they going to go? They're either going to park on the street for $1 or $2, and if it goes up by 25 cents, it's not a huge increase, or they're coming to a parking garage. And, you know, I've been downtown my whole life. I've been in the Leo Roy garage since it was built, and we hope to continue with that, but we need a little bit of give and take, and, you know, a big increase all at once is not what we're looking for. There's other ways to raise that revenue and keep the money coming in, keep these garages in good shape. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Attorney Curtis.
Good evening. My name is Todd Beauregard. I have an office at 25 Central Street in downtown Lowell. I've been an attorney here for over 20 years. I echo the sentiments of my fellow attorneys. Owning a small business in downtown Lowell, I employ nine people. I think I purchased 7 or 8 parking passes. I calculated the increase by the 4th year. I'm looking at paying somewhere around $1,200 a month for parking. This isn't downtown Boston. This is Lowell. All right? If you walk around downtown Lowell, as I know we did several years ago at the summit that we had, you don't often see people dressed in a suit like we are here. You often see the people coming from various walks of life, including the people at the shelter on Middlesex Street. What you're doing effectively by raising the rates at this rate is you're pushing out the people that own businesses in downtown, okay? So if I have to not pay for my employees' passes, I can tell you right now, my secretary, some of my paralegals can't afford those rates. So what are they going to do? They're not going to work for me. Am I going to replace them? How am I going to do that? So my employees eat lunch out almost every day in downtown Lowell. They shop in downtown Lowell. I have one employee that moved to downtown Lowell. So I have some questions, you know, with respect to this revenue that we're generating. I did some quick math in my head, and it looks like you're going to triple the revenue to about $12 million over the course of this 4 years. Is this the plan to fund the new parking garage in the Hamilton Canal District? Because it is, it's a lousy plan. The plan should be have the private funding, and I know we've gone through 4 or 5 developers over there, but you can't build a $200 million courthouse at the end of that street and not have planned to put a parking garage in down there and have a plan of who's going to pay for it. And it shouldn't be borne by the small businesses that are in downtown Lowell. So the questions I have are, what steps have the city and the parking department taken to either explore the possibilities of private funding for these garages or advertising within the garages in order to augment some of these increases that they're looking for.
So there is, parking garage is under design, it's underway, anticipating exactly the question, Councilor, that you have raised relative to, it's a good thing. It's a good thing we need parking, and that is a huge development. Mr. Manager, could you please address that? And I think a good point is raised as to, either private money or sponsorships or corporate sponsorships for these garages. I don't know if that's allowed under the law, but something we're looking into.
Yes, but we've also looked into the model of having a private developer of a garage, and we looked into it, and we've determined that it's most cost-effective for us to build the garage and fund it through the enterprise fund. We actually save money, and the rates would be lower. We did look at that other model of increasing the meters and adding more parking enforcement officers. That's how Boston last year generated $61 million in parking revenue, mostly through enforcement procedures. But we felt that was far too draconian a measure, because the customers coming to these law offices would be the ones that would be getting the parking tickets. So, believe me, this wasn't the first model that was presented to me. We've worked on this for probably months and months. And we're hearing what you say. I think we should look into helping out the downtown business people. I think they make good points tonight, and I think maybe we should look at grandfathering some of these for a while, and maybe increasing the meters to offset the reduction to the downtown business people. So I think that's something we could look into.
Thank you.
Also-
Couple of follow-up questions. What does Middlesex Community College currently pay for their pass holders? Because every day I go into the John Street garage, and the sign is up by 9 o'clock that the garage is full, only pass card holders only, which is great for me. However, for my customers, that doesn't work, because now they're driving around for 30 minutes looking for a parking spot because the garage is full.
So,
David?
yes. The Middlesex parking activity is divided into the monthly passes that the faculty and staff use, and then the tickets that the students are pulling. And the passes, they're paying the market rate. They're paying, that's comparable to the group billing discount of $52 per pass per month. And the transient tickets are averaging approximately $2.15, per ticket. And, Middlesex Community College is enjoying a pretty healthy discount when it's all said and done, especially on the daily rate. But as we've discussed in this room previously, we're looking every time the contract cycle renews is to reduce the discount that we're providing to Middlesex to something that's more reasonable, so that way it can balance the overall population of individuals that's using the facilities.
So I guess my issue with that is, if you're giving a parking spot away for $2.15, and my client wants to come into my office and pay the full parking rate, you just lost revenue. The other observation that I've made with respect to the John Street garage, and I have a question on, is, in my memory, if it serves me correctly, we purchased 3 electric meter-maid vehicles back about 4 or 5 years ago, and I think the price tag was around $50,000 each. Is that in the ballpark?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it
So-
more or less?
Recently, we've, so the vehicles that you're referring to, the bubble cars, I guess?
Yes. Yep.
I'm not aware of the price that they were procured, but I remember from recent research that they're somewhere in between, $15,000 and $25,000. We have other vehicles that we've leased that we're paying approximately $2,500 a year in the lease for each vehicle, so.
So my observation with the electric vehicles that we purchased is that there's 2 of them that haven't moved in 2 years. And if anyone wants to check that out, they just walk down to the John Street garage, go to the basement, last level. There's one that hasn't moved in 2 years. The other one is upstairs on the first level. There's 2 spots that you've taken, and we've spent the money on those vehicles. And the other third vehicle is rarely used. I saw it out today, but I almost never see that vehicle being used. I think that's an area that we have to look at the finances and say, why do we have these vehicles taking up spots, and the cost of procurement, maintenance, and everything else on those vehicles. The other observation I made recently was on Merrimack Street. You've decided, once again, and I think this is the 4th time, that we've changed the meters themselves. So initially, we had a coin-operated meter, then we went to a numbered system, and then we went to a kiosk numbered system, and now I've seen new meters that have been installed on Merrimack Street in front of Attorney Curtis's office, and those meters appear to be electronic. There's a number of wires on the street. They appear somewhat temporary. What's been the cost of the procurement of those new meters?
That was a pilot program that we entered into to develop an app that would designate spaces that are open. You could actually go on your phone, and if you were looking on the app, you could see where a space was available. So those meters aren't being used for revenue. The wires that you're seeing are the sensors that are determining when cars are coming and when cars are leaving. We had a presentation the other day about it. It's a neat little app. We're not going to go back to meters because you got to empty the meters. So instead of emptying 50 kiosks, you're emptying 850 meters. So those meters were just a sensor devices so that we could determine where parking spots are and hopefully develop an app.
So we're going to continue with the existing kiosks and somehow utilize an app? Okay. All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Further?
Hi, I'm Christina Kwan. I live at 240 Jackson Street. I've lived at 240 Jackson Street for about a year now. I've had several opportunities to live at other locations, but I chose downtown Lowell because I love the city. I frequently come down here for events when I wasn't living here. So I made that choice to live here with my budget really at the top of my head because being a young professional, I have to really focus on my budget. So with these increases, 69% in 1 year, that is a major hit to my budget. Why should I have to live here and have that? I also frequently travel for work, so that option 3 that I saw with the 2-day grace period and coming and going at very specific times isn't going to work for me. I can't pay those rates to travel for work and come back and pay some kind of additional fee on top of my monthly fees. I can't do it. So I really understand that there needs to be a rate increase, but I ask you to be reasonable with it and actually plan this out a lot better than it is right now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Other speakers?
Good evening, I'm Michael Najar. I work with Marcotte Law Firm at 45 Merrimack, which is where Merrimack and Central intersect. That building, the Hildreth building, has a vacancy probably in excess of 50%, and I know, and I unfortunately had come up from Boston and I was late and didn't stop at my office because the guy that handles it was going to send a letter with their concerns. A lot has been said, everything's been said pretty much. I must say that this is one of the most nicely written things, and I'm going to ask Mr. Navin to write my closing arguments from now on. Yeah, but the one point I want to bring home again is what Martha Howe said. You can take every bit of this proposal and you can maybe say, all right, don't give the discount here, give it there, and you can work and tweak various figures. But you've got to make a core decision, and that is, are you going to use parking to be a moneymaker to the detriment of the overall concept of what you want downtown? And in my mind, to have any further disincentive for somebody to come into Lowell to do business or to run a business, watch what I have to watch day in and day out. Watch what my clients have to go through coming in and day out. And ask yourself really, all right, are we going to make money this way? Are we going to disincentivize more and add to the vacancy in the downtown? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes. Good evening.
I have my notes on the phone. Hi, I'm Dr. Mindy Doppler-Nelson, and I am a public health scientist. I'm also a realtor. So I'm going to come from two different angles to talk about this. I was instrumental in getting the Complete Streets policy passed, and one of the unintended consequences of this tier system is that downtown residents may choose to drive places just to pull their car out of the garage rather than keeping the car in the garage and walking places or bicycling places. So what you're actually encouraging people to do is be more sedentary than being active. And when people are less active, there's more medical implications around that. I think that what we need to do is provide some incentives for people to travel to the city either using mass transit or providing bike lockers to encourage people to bike into the city. One way would be, as a result, to decrease the congestion of the cars. Now, coming at it from the real estate standpoint, oh, wait, one other thing is I wanted to also say that there could be an incentive for people to carpool into the parking garages. I didn't see any kind of a discount for people to carpool. And that is something that would allow less cars also to be in the city and to reduce the carbon footprint that's being brought into the city, decreasing potential of smog. So now, in terms of from the real estate standpoint, when I screen buyers with lenders to see how they will qualify, and I work with a lot of first-time buyers, a lot of millennials, like one of our past speakers, and the first thing that comes up in their qualifications is not just what their mortgage is going to be, but they have to add in the cost of the HOA fees. So by raising the parking garage rates and the downtown condos having to raise their association fees, then that is going to push a lot of first-time buyers from being eligible to even move into the city. So where are they going to go? They'll go outside of the downtown area or maybe into other towns and cities. The other thing is that even when potential buyers come into the downtown, they have to park somewhere when they go looking at the units. A higher price parking could even scare them away, especially if they then know that to live here, it's going to take a big financial hit to their budget. So price comparisons against other cities, well, let's look at what the median price of the homes are in these other cities. Look what the median income is of the residents in the other cities. The median income in downtown Lowell has already been brought up as being significantly less. So in a sense, this is a regressive tax on lower income people. And to compare our costs to places like Cambridge or to Boston is not equitable. I also have pets, and when I go out of town, I have cat sitters. And so I have actually had pet sitters charge me increased rates because they have to park downtown. What is that going to do to people like myself who may travel for personal reasons, or, as other people have mentioned, travel for business? If they have pets, they have to hire somebody. Now they're going to have not just pay for personal increased parking, but for their own pet care as well to increase because of increased parking. And lastly, when friends come into the area to visit, a lot of times they don't necessarily want to come downtown because of the parking rates to begin with now. So what's that going to do? That's going to encourage me to have to go out of downtown. So what does that mean for downtown businesses? It means I'm not frequenting them for dinner anymore. I'm bringing my business elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Yep, we're running up against, we may have to continue this discussion. We're running up against the city council meeting, but we're not rushing.
I wasn't planning on speaking. Good evening. My name is Donna Doobie. I'm in Canal Place 3 with Kathleen. I am one of those 1,000-year teachers, and as of next year, I'm going to be retired. I live in Canal Place 3. I love downtown Lowell. I ignore the hookers. I ignore the drug dealers. I ignore the panhandlers. I ignore all of that. I look on the pleasant things. One of my greatest pleasures is to be able to walk out and go to the restaurants and enjoy what the nightlife has to offer. However, if I am forced to pay more money, because I'm in an easement parking at our Canal Place 3, which what happens is we lose our parking spot. So I have to pay for a parking spot. So which means I'm gonna get double barrel here. My condo rate is gonna go up, and I'm gonna end up paying for the parking. So I'm not going to be able to go out to those nice restaurants. So I just want you to know how someone like me, a retired person, is going to be personally affected. Thanks.
Thank you. Before we proceed, we received an email from Cindy, a woman by the name of Cindy McAndrews. She lives on the South Campus. She wanted to register. She sent a 2-page letter and asked us to read it, but it's rather lengthy. But I'll just paraphrase that she's opposed to the permit increased fee for the stickers in the neighborhood, and the issue that will raise, and suggest better enforcement of the sticker parking in the neighborhood. So I'll give you this, Mr. Clerk. I just want to read it into the record, or submit it for the record. So if there's no other speakers, there is other speakers. Yep, that's okay. There's another speaker as well. We'll probably run over the council meeting, but this is important.
Hi, Jack Moynihan, 88 Prescott Street, and I'm also co-chair of the Downtown Neighborhood Association. So I'm kind of speaking in that last area, because I've heard from a lot of the members, and most of what I've heard runs consistent with what people have said. But one of the very consistent things were that people are very concerned with having to pay for pay for the garages, the new garage, and which now seems to be multiple garages with the user fee. Now, I understand the whole idea about the enterprise fee, but we had one counselor at the last time the council meeting when this parking came up said that things are going to be paid for by user fees. We're not going to have the taxpayers paying for it. Well, as people mentioned earlier, there's a lot of the monthly pass payers are taxpayers. The condominium owners, the business owners, also the many people who live in the city and work in offices downtown. So this is if it's a benefit to have the courthouse in the area, which I certainly agree with, and developing the Hamilton Canal District, then I think it's a benefit to the city. And the taxpayers should favor it. I mean, I should pay for it. It should be shared equitably. I don't hear people suggesting that we pay for the new high school with user fees. Anyway, thank you very much.
I think we're just going to spill over to the council meeting. All the councilors are here anyway. So yeah, I know we got a lot of questions. One more member of the public that'd like to speak? Anyone else?
Hi, I am Michael Moran. I live at 200 Marketplace with Donna. We're in Canal Place 3. It's a great place. I am currently in the process of buying my first home. It will be at Canal Place 3. Thank you.
Wait, before, is it in Lowell?
Canal Place 3.
Okay, great.
So I'm leasing to own it. Met with my mortgage officer the other day. FOH fees are high in Lowell. I can move to Drake-it and pay $275, $350 for HOA fees. I don't have to pay for parking. I don't have to worry about my friends, my families, anyone paying for parking, because it's other condo buildings. The property values down here are a decent amount. That, like, for a first-time home buyer, there are some good incentives. There's some good grant programs that help pay for a down payment. I'm still in college. I've been in college for almost 10 years. My student loans are gonna come with an aggressive passion, and it's gonna kill me, but raising everything is gonna raise everything, and it's a difference between me continuing to meet with my mortgage loan officer and buying my condo, or like maybe looking and seeing, okay, pause on that for a minute. Let me see if I can get something better out of city which I love this city. I'm a 26-year-old dude. I have a lot of friends. I grew up in Drake-it. I have a bunch of friends in Lowell, a bunch of people that live in Lowell. I went to school at Middlesex. I have friends everywhere. I go out of town to meet them. I go back to Drake-it. I go out to Chelmsford. I don't stay in Lowell that much. I work downtown. After work, I get in my car and I drive and I go meet people elsewhere because parking is an issue. People don't want to pay for the garage as it is. And that's on the weekends. That's nights and weekends. I serve at night. I work during the day at a bank. It's just too many things to think about. People don't want to pay as much as it is. A lot of us, starting minimum wage or right out of college, it's not a great pay at all, anywhere you try now. Student loans, they're expensive. Our budgets are tight. Going out and getting a $3 beer, I could do it downtown. I can walk to anywhere downtown. But my friends aren't there. The people aren't there. The people that are there are the kids that are in college now, because UMass Lowell buses them over, pretty much, or they Uber. Uber is starting to be a better choice as well, other things like that. So that's something you might want to think about before raising prices higher than it costs to take an Uber from another town. Because it's just, there's an offset. It's just too much.
Okay.
That's all I got for you.
Well, make sure you close that deal on that mortgage. We want.
We'll see.
But I think in relation to that, the statements the parking is a concern, but people want to live in the city. And is there anyone else from the members of the public that would like to speak before we? Yep, please. Hope the mayor is okay with us spilling over into the council meeting.
Hi, my name is Allison Evanson, and I'm a resident at Canal Place 1 and have been for coming up on 22 years now. My question is, what parking option in here is for residents? Out of your list of unrestricted, commuter special, and overnight parking.
So any of those products would be available to residents. It's based on your preference and your parking needs and your schedule. So and then beyond that, you would be able to apply the discount available to downtown residents.
So I would be able to, I work in Burlington and my husband works in Exeter. So technically I'd want to do the overnight parking special to save money. But I can't do that because there would be times when I'm on vacation and my car, may be there for a week. What are the fees or penalties I would be paying to have that? Because I have a 2-day grace period, that's it.
Sure. So, and I would just like to reiterate that it's the philosophy of the parking department to grant consideration. And we understand that, one size doesn't fit all. And it was the objective to create, products that we thought would be the best fit for the majority. But just like with all the programs that we administer, if there's an extenuating circumstance or a special need, we work with our clients to make that possible. So let's say we were to use a scenario of vacation. If you're a monthly a dutiful monthly parker, I see no problem with, being flexible in the administration of the product to, extend the grace period allotment as long as you coordinate with us like many people do. They say, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to be leaving my car on the 3rd floor and, so on and so forth. And that overall, that's our objective when applying these policies and products. So, and that's the way that I would aim to administer these proposed rates as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I'm sorry.
Just want to continue to get, did you want to have a follow-up to her? We want to get.
I just wanted to mention that, these concepts were developed, but, the times associated with each product was just kind of meant to illustrate the spirit of the intent for each program, and is certainly malleable. So.
Okay, right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others want to? Okay, and then there's a gentleman behind you that would like to speak.
Jeff Edmondson again. Just curious, how many of the committee members actually pay for parking in Lowell?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
How many of the committee members pay for parking in Lowell, or they get passes as part of their job?
I don't believe, I think most of us work out of town. I think he's talking, members of the city council, correct?
City council, yes.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah, well,
you actually pay for parking at the current rates and will be paying for parking at the future rates?
So,
I am going to suggest, I don't think any members of I work in Boston, I think most of my fellow colleagues, so we don't pay, no, there's,
All right.
there's no free passes and we don't pay.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. I mean, we're talking about raising the prices for residents and people parking
We would
everywhere.
pay it too,
but
yeah.
if the people on the committee aren't actually paying for parking, it's not
Well,
so.
we're paying for parking, so if this does go up, we'll be paying it as well.
Okay,
I
that
work
was my
out of town.
question. That is,
Yeah.
is how many people we're currently paying for parking?
Point well taken. Yep.
Thank you.
Sir?
Thank you. I'm Michael Breeder. I'm with the Jambra Neighborhood Association. I just want to stress that to me, when I look at the numbers, and some people might disagree with me here, I don't disagree that some of the numbers look reasonable. However, I think it's the severity of the increase to consider that, for example, if I were a resident and I also work downtown, I have to pay, I'm supposed to be in the $100 slot. So you're going to give me a discount, $80. So my rate's going to go up 70% in 1 year. 3 years later, I'm actually paying 200% increase over what I'm paying now. Those numbers are staggering. And sometimes it isn't just about the dollars of the $20 or $30 a month, but to consider the manner in which the increases are administered. I hope that council will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So is there anyone else from the public want to speak? Because we're going to wrap this up because there is a schedule. Yeah. Okay. Okay, wait, we've, if there's anyone else from the public, we're just trying to keep some order here. I hear what you say, and I think you'll be pleased with what I think we're going to suggest. Anyone else from the public want to speak? You came down, you took time. We want to make sure that we're not rushing this thing, and we're not going to rush this thing. I personally, there's a lot of statements. We have all members of the city council here, and we called this meeting. This was forwarded to this subcommittee a month ago, as was proposed, or even later. So we had this discussion, and I think I'll speak on behalf of the committee. We need some work. We get some work to do on this, and we've heard from the public. That's why we had this meeting. We heard you loud and clear. I think the increase is far too significant. The last thing we want to hear are that business people are leaving, this is going to affect them enough that they're going to leave town. We're trying to get more businesses. We're trying to fill the second and third and fourth floors with professionals and lawyers and doctors and et cetera. So in my opinion, this is not a good thing. The downtown is going well. It's a good thing that we need more parking. We need to restructure, in my opinion, the process. And if the street needs, we also don't want to, as mentioned, disincentivize anyone from coming downtown. We don't want businesses to leave. We also want more businesses to come downtown. And we appreciate the fact that, you're staying downtown. It's a good thing. The downtown is great. We have some issues that you struggle through, that we struggle with every single day. But without going too far, I entertain a motion to send this back to the city manager, not proceed with a public hearing. We have some work to do. I don't think we should be raising rates, certainly not to this magnitude by any stretch. And we want to continue the business-friendly relationship we have, and we don't want to send a perception out that, don't go downtown, Lowell. The parking rates are, that they're sky high. So, Councilman Milanazzo, I know we probably all want to speak this. We can perhaps do that when we bring this report in. But I.
Everything you said into consideration.
Motion by Councilman Milanazzo to refer this back to the city manager for further input and analysis to a lot of the issues addressed. Second by Council O'Leary. And just to wrap up, I think we talked all about the revenue tonight, and we heard some concerns, and that's where my issue was, where are we with the expenses? We understand that there's a garage, but is there some way to pare back? This doesn't have to be overnight. We don't have to make up ground overnight with this kind of staggering increase, and I think. I just want to address, this is good news because I was here at a time when the garages were running a multi-million-dollar deficit. I think probably Councilman Mercier and Councilman Bonazzo. They were empty. And the good news is that they're full, and we're looking at building another one, but we can't place that burden on the taxpayers nor on the ratepayers. So, Mr. Manager, we're going to refer this back to you. Roll call. Yes.
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 3 yeas, so motion passes. We'll bring that in as a recommendation to the full city council. I know all members of the council, Samaras, Belanger, and Mercier were here and would like to weigh in, but I see the mayor somewhere giving us the evil eye to let's move this on. So as Council Milanazzo and Larry mentioned, thank you for coming down. We appreciate your input, and we'll report back. Motion to adjourn by Council Milanazzo, seconded by Council Leary. All those in favor signify by